Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. I wanted to make an updated edit tutorial version since I still see a lot of people struggling and I would love to see as many of you join the edit community since it's just a lot of fun to be in. Please ignore the background noises. My neighbors are, I don't know if they're mowing their lawn or just decorating it, but it's very, very noisy. So please do ignore that. Other than that, I would start first by opening the Momio bank. That is a link that you can access and it will bring you to a Google Drive where you'll find this. This is the Momio bank that I'm talking about. And it's very easy, especially for when you're beginning to edit and you don't know how to draw like bodies and everything yourself yet, which you'll learn. You don't have to learn, but you could if you wanted to. For example, I'd like to make a girl. I would use this one. Then send a copy if you're using an iPad. Save image, and then we're going back to Procreate, which I have opened here. And to start, we'll insert the picture that we just had. Download it. Make it as big or as small as you like. And that's basically the first thing we do. Because a lot of people are trying to use looks or something from Momio directly, which is a lot harder because you don't have a plain base to work on. I personally find it easier when you can work with your own clothes and make them just as you like. Like if I were to go back now and I wanted a dress, then I'd go to clothes and find dresses. Take a random dress, very pretty. You download it, but you get it in pieces, as you can see. So if I were to insert this picture now, I have this dress in all the pieces. So if I were to make a change to her body and make her sit down, for example, which we do by selecting the part that we'd like from this layer, like so, swiping down with 3 fingers, and then you get this option menu. I usually just take the cut and paste because it's the easiest one. I want her to look up towards the sun. Then we take, for example, the bodice. We do have to go back to the right layer, otherwise it's not going to do much. Again, and then you can change it like that. I don't really prefer the normal proportions, so I usually change them up, which you can do whichever way you want. I prefer the distort and the wrap tool. The distort will just like make you change your angle a bit, just towards your liking, and the wrap, if you do event mesh, you can like make it as crazy as you want it to be. And if you tap with 2 fingers on your screen, it will go back the way it was, so you don't have to worry about that at all. Then she does kind of need a neck because a floating head is quite scary, really. So let's do that as well. Just really quick. You don't really have to take hours making a pose. It can be very easy. You can always adjust it if you don't like it. See if I can get it to match. Perfect. Let's go back to this thing. And then you see, oh, I don't like this. I prefer to go to adjustments, and then down here you have the liquify tool, and then you can like push it just in any direction you want, see. And if I think like, oh, it doesn't really match the vibe I was going for, I can just change it up just the way I like it. It's like drawing basically. We're setting down, right? So then we'll take this one, which I don't like the figure of at all, which I never leave this. Like, learning perspective is really difficult. I'm going to say that right now. So if you cannot do that right away, like make the poses fit so that the body exactly matches like a real pose, trust me, it took me years. If you can do it at once, that's amazing, and I'm very proud of you because that's very impressive. But if you can't, it's okay. You can struggle with the poses for a while and don't know what you're doing. But like the most important thing about editing for me is like trusting the process, because if you see this, you don't think, oh, it's gonna look anything nice in the end, in my honest opinion, but it will. You just have to trust it a little bit. I'm going to make it a little bit wider so she is actually sitting. See if I can change her face a bit up real quick towards my liking, which would be... Okay, now I can't. I have to use the liquify tool for that, in my honest opinion. I'm going to make her smile, which I always do by pushing the corners of her eyes up a little bit because it gives more that smiling kind of look. maybe like change the cheekbones a bit, or just a face shape, just as much as you want. It doesn't matter. You can play with it as much as you like. I'm just going to make her smile a little bit. We were gonna make her look up, so then we'll do this. I think it's important to do this first, considering that's the thing I see most with inexperienced editors, or just, well, experienced. It depends on what your style is. If you really like this style, I'm not going to force you to not do it, obviously. But I always make a color in for the eyes, and you'll see why in a second. Because if I turn off my background here, then she won't have any. And if I'm going to add a background, like a pink cloud or something, she won't have any white in her eyes anymore. So we draw that. You can opt to draw your own eyes. I prefer not to, so I'm going to insert some eyes that I downloaded a while ago. If I can find them again, which is always the big thing, right? No, those weren't eyes. There's eyes in this one. Yeah, sure, why not use these? Make her look up. Now, as you see, those eyes don't look anything like what we want. If you download like an entire PNG, like the way I just did, I would advise to just select with this tool the parts you like I just want the eyes, cut and paste, and then just delete the rest of the layer. Because as you can see now, the eyes don't really look like they're looking in the right direction, so we have to fix that. You can change it with the size if you think that's the easiest way to go. I'm not going to stop you. Everybody does their eyes a different way. Some draw them, some want them to look very like mesh, some wants them to be like very shiny. I prefer to actually darken them a lot, which I would do by taking a airbrush. Where are my airbrushes here? Like, yeah, take soft blend. You take the color black and then you go over it. Let's add I did add a new layer. And you can just like go over it a little bit like that. So you give some shadow to the eye, and as you can see the difference, it actually gives depth to the eye, which makes it look a bit more realistic as far as realism goes in Momio. But I still think I much prefer this than not doing it. And when most people ask me, how do you make your eyes look so realistic? This is always the first advice I give, because it's what I think makes for the best advice when you're starting off with Momio edits. I think that's like a really important part. Do it on the side here because I'm not really liking the fact that it's so bright. And then you can obviously erase around the edges if you think you don't like it. If you put it back on, you can see sometimes you like get out of the eye or where you were drawing. You can fix that, by the way. If you wanted like to draw something specifically on her head, you're going to select a layer and then choose clipping mask. And then if I want to draw, it's only going to be drawn in her head. I would advise to make new layers for that. You can also do it on the same layer. Then you choose the option alpha lock. But then you see, if you want to erase it, you'll erase the entire face, which if you do it on a new layer and then clipping mask, and you want to erase it, you're not going to erase the face, which is ideal when you're drawing clothes and something, which is also something like layers is the first thing I usually explain when editing, considering it's very important to know where you're standing based on that, because it's much easier to edit. Like if you make a mistake, it's easier to erase or to add something without having to worry that you'll lose your process. I'm not going to finish this entire edit because I have no clue what I'm making, but I'll show you some basic pieces. This is my style, so you don't have to literally take everything I do here. You can, like, if you really want long arms or really big arms, or just like, this is just going to change the size overall, but if you wanted them to be longer, you choose freeform or wider. It doesn't really matter, whichever you prefer. I usually make them really small because I just prefer them that way. And then duplicate the layer by just swiping, and then you can choose lock, duplicate, or delete. I'm going to select the layer, hold it, and then just place it up here, because otherwise you're going to not see part of the arm anymore. Now I've made them like this, and now I've decided I think they're a bit too short. Let's fix that. So we can just like elongate them like that again. And here choose liquify again and just do it the same way. I'm making a weird pose, so this might not actually be the best tutorial because I have no idea. I don't have a reference or anything. I just started this because somebody asked me for some advice just a moment ago and I wanted to explain. But I don't like the shapes of these arms. I always make them thicker. Usually I make them a bit more thicker, more thick. I don't really know, because as you can see, it like gets really blurry, and then I just erase it down to the shape that I kind of like or want to use. Now she could be like holding something or pointing towards something. Guess I'm gonna do that. Then we select like a hand. I always use this one. Whatever one I make, whatever she's supposed to do, I always start off with that one for some reason. You can also copy it if you're afraid like, oh, I'm gonna have to use it again. Then you don't have to cut and paste, so you'll easily be able to. We can also just undo something if you do something wrong. You do that by tapping the screen twice. Just also, yeah, well, now I'm saying that if you tap the screen 3 times, it will just redo something. Like, say I did this. Oh no, I undo it. But oh no, I do want to do it again. Then you tap it with 3 fingers. And then it happens again. So it's just as easy as you want to make it. Trust the process. It looks very bad now. But if I erase it, parts of it at least, it will look better. And she was going to point at something, so we're going to do this. Now draw the lines to make it look like her fingers aren't actually non-existent. Just like that. There we go. And now she's pointing at, I'm going to write edit tutorial. Maybe she could be pointing at that. Give me my favorite brush to write with, which is the 6B pencil. I love sketching with it. If I'm like making an edit or like a ghost, I'll like sketch it out first. The Momios always have a round face, so you don't actually have to worry about the face shapes. But like, say I wanted to make a ghost, you get the principle, right? So I'm gonna write edit tutorial. Here. Now, if you have any specific questions or anything that isn't answered in this video, you can always just like message me on Momio or text me on Instagram or down in the comments below. It doesn't really matter, whatever you feel comfortable with. I just want to try and help. I'm not doing this for any other reason than that. Now, this face is annoying me, so I'm going to get rid of it so we can only see hers. Now, the question is, do we want to draw our own hair or do we want to let Momio Bank do it? Maybe yellow hair would be fun. Which for I'm going to this specific set, which I did buy, so maybe I should use a set that is available for everyone. I think it's an inking. The syrup brush is one of my favorite. It's also the one I have selected as my eraser because I've grown really used to it. If I make hair, I usually always go with like swirly things because I love swirls. I don't like straight or... I'm not saying that people with straight hair aren't beautiful because they definitely are. But for me, I just really like drawing curls. Things like that. Okay, well, that wasn't very pretty. You get the gist of it. If I wanted to, I could also add like a different color back here, so it gives some differentiation or some shading. Basically, you get the gist. I'm going to delete this now because it's really not pretty, and go get a hair from the Momio Bank. Although I do think I have one downloaded already, so I don't have to go look for one. I'll just use this one because it's... See, if this happens and you're wondering why this happens, it's because you're working in a layer that is still on clipping mask. You can just add it and then just undo the clipping mask here. And then you have all items again. I'll choose the haircut for this layer because that's what we were going for. I'm just going to select both and then toggle the invisibility on the layer so I can still see what I'm doing, because obviously now my painting is very crowded and I have no idea what I'm doing. So if you just press this, it goes away. Don't have to look at it anymore. Like I said before, you just hold it and swipe it down all the way beneath the torso, because obviously the hair is not going to be in front. Hold it to where you think it would look kind of good. Usually I do the top one first, since it's a bit easier to locate where it should like go. Like I think this looks fine. Now I accidentally already have the back to be well, but you can change it however you like so that it fits your aesthetic, your liking, whatever. If you want like more eyebrows, you can always use the liquify tool, just like turn it up a little bit so you can still see her eyebrows, which are non-existent at the moment, but still. You could literally play with anything you want. That's the fun thing about editing. You can just make something in your imagination grow as wild as it has to be to become something you really like. Then for legs, let's do those quickly too, since I'm already doing this anyway. Cut and paste, put them here. Now obviously I don't like the size of them, but as you can see, which the problem here, first you have to put it over the buttons obviously. I can't really see my leg. Which I do then is to put like a filter on the layer. You can undo them at any time, so it doesn't really matter. I use them a lot for drawing hair, like if I want to use the same color but just like multiply it, then it gets darker, or I don't know, darken doesn't really do much for me. Color burn, liner burn. You can use them all. Which I prefer is add when you want to add lighting, which I will show you in a second. And where did it go? And then the exclusion, I think. Which one is it? Because I forgot. Yeah, well, I'm going to need to use this one. It's fine. Now it's blue, which makes it a lot easier to see what I'm doing and where I'm placing it. Like I want it to be a little bit wider because obviously there's legs there. And she's sitting, so the angle will change a little bit. And I think if she has really skinny legs, could be, if you think that's beautiful. Which it is, but for this particular edit, I'm opting not to. And then with liquify, just like change the bottom part a little bit to my liking, because she is indeed sitting. Then we're going to duplicate this layer and put it underneath there, and then just freeform it to the other side, or maybe we do it flat if we want to, in which we can still change it a little bit to our liking. And then you can do it back to like the normal filter, so it will just look like a normal leg again. Ta-da! And then you can like erase the blurry parts if you feel like it, if you think it's not so pretty. But if you're going to put clothes on over it, I would recommend you don't, because then it's a massive waste of time. But like if you were going to give her shorts or a skirt, then you could totally do this. I have a friend who's very, very focused on detail, and she stopped editing because it took her too long to finish one edit. Like the tiny little details, like making a body already took her over a few hours, which you can actually do in 5 minutes. You don't have to, you can take as however long you want, but I opt to just make the body first and then change the things I don't like afterwards, and clothes and everything, just because if you're going to change something about the pose, you'll have to change all the clothing and everything after. So I just opt to make her first like this, and then see what we'll do with that after. Put it up here so you can actually see it. Going to liquefy its size a little bit again. There we go. Erase the blurry parts. I have no idea what I would use this for, but I have it now, so could use it if I wanted to. For this tutorial, obviously, but like now she has this pose. I just realized I did the exact same pose I recently did. I'll show you in a second. It's a birthday edit that I'm posting on my birthday, which is next week. This week, wow. Okay, my birthday's this week. Good to know. I can be very forgetful. We can also take like a different hand because I'm too tired to go draw a hand right now. Like this. cut and paste it. Now you see this is upside down. We don't want it upside down, so we're going to flip it vertical, and then it will suit me a bit better. Liquefy it to a size that I'm comfortable with. It's going to be like flat on the floor or on a cloud or something. God knows where she's sitting on. Going to give her lips. She's actually really pretty. Not that I doubted that, but let's give her these. Guess why not? Put it on top of the face, otherwise you're not going to see it. Now I don't really like the shape of that, so I'm going to change it with Liquefy until I do. Ideally like the shape a bit better. Go over the blurry parts with a new brush, which I can do if you don't have an airbrush selected, otherwise it's not going to do much. Like with the Cera brush, you could totally do that. And then make it look actually like it's not as blurry as it really is. You could also, like right now, the lips are very light and they're not contrasting to the skin. So if you go up the hat, make a new layer, choose the color of the skin tone, and then I would go with Multiply. Or if you want something warmer, you can choose like an orangey color. It just basically based on preferences. Go back to the airbrush and then just go underneath it a little bit so you can see it going to give some contrasts. So you can see where the lips stand out, and then you can just blur it in so it doesn't really have to be that obvious. But the lips do stand out a bit better now. And if you want to like make a nose, you could also totally do that in the same ways. And then the thing that I get asked most is lighting, which for you'll add a new layer and you're going to use the filter at. Use like a light color, like whitish, doesn't really matter which color you use. I do prefer to use like, I don't know if I bought this one or not. I really like to use the brush, soft brush. I think it's a free brush. At least I didn't pay for it, so I got it somewhere for free. Because it's like semi-blending, but also still pretty straight. And then you just draw the lines you want to have, like on the nose, for example. And as you can see, it's already lighting up a little bit, like over under the eyes, maybe the cheekbones. She doesn't have eyelashes yet. I forgot. Like maybe you're a little bit in the inner corners. And then you can either use this to blend it out, or use Gaussian blur and then select a pencil, select an airbrush, like we've been doing, and just airbrush it out a little bit. Well, not too hard, obviously, otherwise you're not going to see it anymore. Okay, I think I preferred this one better. And then it's like, it has that glowy effect that you see in edits often. You can opt to do it as careful as you want. I did it really, really quickly right now, so that does kind of ruin the illusion a bit. But like, for example, she's looking at a sun. I don't like this. Let's say she were looking at a sun. I have this big orange orb right here. Let's draw one. She's looking at that. And then I would like to make that obviously glowy. You can do it like that. But I would opt to make 2 layers, one normal. And then blur this one out a little bit, so it looks like a giant glowing orb. Especially if I turn off the background again. And then if we wanted some shading, we can go to like an airbrush. Choose the same color. Go over her face a little bit, which is going to turn very orange, obviously, at the moment. And then we can select the add layer. And as you can see, I have the lighting on her face, seeing that she is definitely in the presence of the sunlight, which is always like a very good detail, fun detail when you're editing, to like make something like this, if you prefer. Let's put my edit tutorial in my little sun. Now I'm not going to give her feet because I don't feel like it. I am quickly going to give her some clothing, like maybe a green color. Yeah, why not? go back to my syrup brush because I do think for drawing it's nicer to use brushes like these. And as you can see, I drew this underneath my sunlight layer, so you'll still see it. Actually gonna use this one. There we go, just like a basic outline, just a super random crop top. Fill it in if you'd like. If we want to do some shading, I'll suggest a clipping mask. I prefer using these to shade with the layer on multiply. Get some basic shading in. So you can kind of see where the shadows are in this thing. You can also like opt to do some black shading. Basically just like personal preference really. But considering that she's sitting in the sunlight, I think it's okay to use some black on this side now. Give her some shorts. Maybe dark green. Really quickly. You can do this as in your own time, a little bit slower obviously, to make it actually suit the vibe you're going for. I'm just quickly doing this now to get the general idea of it. You can also like do this in parts, like I showed the dress in the beginning of the video. It came in different separate layers. You can obviously do that. We worked in layers, so if you want like this part of the pants, you just go, yeah, why not, underneath here, so you'll go on top of this, and if you then draw, it won't go on top of the others, so you just do like that. You can do the clipping mask, so it's only in the leg, and then on top maybe use like a softer color to do the same thing, so that OSE gives us some shading to make it look like the leg in the back is a little bit darker shaded. And then obviously we can do the same thing here. Use a tiny little different shade so you can see the differentiation. There we go, we have a basic shorts. That's a very basic one-on-one edit tutorial that I'm going to show you right now, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. It's okay, any questions you have, I'll be happy to explain it, make another video, whatever you want. But I hope this was helpful, and if it was, I'd love to see your edits, so you're always allowed to forward them to me. Now I'm going to finish some extra work that I am currently doing. First I'm going to show you the pose because I kind of promised. Like I told you, it was a pose I kind of recently made. That's my birthday edit, and that was everything. So I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching.